Welcome, welcome, and bienvenidos to Tech and Tequila, the podcast where cutting edge technology meets smooth conversation, just like your favorite adult beverage. I'm Kat Lopez Shelby, the founder and CEO of Shelby Technology Solutions, aka your techie chica. I'm here and ready to guide you through the latest tech innovations, industry insights, and some behind the scenes stories about the digital world. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you so much, Miss Kelli, for being here. I really appreciate you joining us on Tech and Tequila. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today.
Yes. So I would be remiss if we don't start out by just kind of going over, how you came into the channel and how you came to be at Five9, because I think that's a great way to start so that everybody knows your background and goes over all that.
Kat, I'm so glad you asked that question. I think that what's interesting about the channel is that so many of us have so many varied entrance points to this space. And so I'm no different from all those unique experiences. Mine is a little bit varied in that I was a banker before moving out to NorCal with my husband. And at the time, he was working as an engineer, so we moved around a lot. And so banking had been something that I was very comfortable with, and assisting customers as they are looking for wealth management and even just growing their portfolios. I moved out to Cali, specifically NorCal, wine country, and the way that they bank is completely different than any other approach that I've experienced. And I've lived in Seattle, in DC, and in Texas. And so I very quickly had to pivot into something different. And I had responded to a blind Craigslist ad to either go be a partner support rep at a TSD, which at the time was called a master agent, or to be an executive director at a winery. Right. And so I was just like, whoa, look at these two options. Right. And so while my dream job was a winery, we also at around the same time as I had made this decision, I found out I was pregnant with my youngest son, who is now 8. And so the adult in me at the time was like, go with the job that probably has a little bit more roots, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I did, because that introduced me to one of the top TSDs in this space that helps referral partners like yourself and others as they navigate technology and telecommunications. And from there, I worked a ton of time with partners, helping them with escalations with suppliers and all the things. And then I moved into supplier management at that same organization. And I had these, what we would call at the time, these tech innovator partners or supplier partners. And so I had all these CCAS supplier partners. And this is 2016 going into 2017. And this was still very new in our marketplace. And so I spent some time with them, got super creative around how to get them in front of partners at big events and shows, and did a really good job. Met a mentor who really helped me to see that transferable skills could be, used in other places. I came over to Five9 in October of 2018. Oh my goodness, it's almost 6 years now, and it feels like just yesterday. But I came over without any real experience on the sales side of the house, not at least in technology, but came over to this space, pretty much built, along with the team, built a pretty equitable partner program. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. And so built a pretty equitable partner program. And yeah, that's how I'm here today.
Well, I love when there's kind of like a winding path to get here, because I always tell people, I was a history major prior to coming in all this. And, kind of like yourself, I ended up in a situation where I wanted to get a more adult job than what I had before, per se. And that's when I started at AT&T. So, 13 on, or well, I say 13, but like 20 years plus later, I found this route. And I love everything that being in the channel has to offer. And one of the things that I really like about Five9 and about, like, let's just say the contact center space or CCAS, is the innovations that are coming out. So I know that if I didn't ask this question, I would be remiss because everybody and and I'll say their dog, is talking about AI. But I know that Five9 is doing some great things to incorporate AI into its solutions. So can you talk a little bit about that and just kind of, see where Five9's at and kind of where Five9 plans on going with that?
Yeah, I think that, like you're saying, that there are some significant changes that are impacting what we call our CX platform, or the way that we interact with our customers. And our customers today are producing more data than ever on more channels. And what I mean by channels is they're talking to people over the telephone, over text, over email, over social media, on LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
They're talking to them in all these different places. And so that's why automation rates are increasing, and the expectations that are being placed on those that are interacting with our customers are becoming greater. And so what Five9 has done was, we envisioned a series of integrated tools to help our customers with all those above concerns that are data driven and measurable. And that helped us build out these AI strategic tenants, and even an AI council, excuse me. And so what I mean by that is, we're leveraging AI from a practical, engine agnostic, and responsible way that's embedded in every application that we utilize. And when we're thinking of the tools for our enterprise customers, we're looking at things to solve that they're trying to solve for, right? They need to get better visibility into what their agents are doing. They need to reduce their customer care costs. They're wanting more face time with their customers so that they can continue to choose them time over time. And so I really do appreciate our approach to AI, because I believe that it is really assisting the customer with their root cause, which is taking the data from their previous customer engagements and leveraging it so that they can elevate the CX or the experience for their customers in the future.
I think that's awesome what Five9 is doing with customer experience and the omni-channel, that it's bringing to the table. Because with clients, whether they're 80 or a teenager, so to speak, in that framework, they all want to interact in a different manner. And it's so important to be able to have the information and know, like, okay, they text messaged or they reached out to us on a social media. But the secondary thing to that is that's going to bring about some analytics and some data insights for a business. Where do you see kind of that going into play to improve the customer experience as well, kind of in the innovation standpoint?
Yeah, I love that question. And it actually kind of brings to mind two separate technologies that Five9 is leveraging today. One of which is AI as a tool. Like I used to say, it's AI as a tool, where we're leveraging agent assist. And so that's where we're taking in two spaces. We're either taking a high volume of repetitive tasks from an agent perspective and leveraging our IVA or our virtual agent to take on some of those tasks. So then we have happy agents, right, for that customer's experience. But then also there's, like you said, with regards to omni-channel, it's allowing our customers to be able to interact with us across voice, chat, text, whichever space that we're needing. And it's allowing for them to interact with us in the ways that are most convenient for them. From another perspective, you talked about what we're doing with that data, or better yet, what our customers are doing with that data. And I believe that in healthcare, for instance, which happens to be one of our top three markets for customers, we're seeing the most advancements in the insights and the data that they're able to pull down from having a platform like Five9. For instance, they're more efficient with their triage with their patients, because they're able to route them to the right care provider over the phone or follow up with them via SMS after their appointment. Also, we have, again, self-service appointment availability for scheduling, for reminders, for visibility of unpaid bills, and even access to medical records. And so all of these things help a healthcare provider be more proactive in their outreach with their personalized communications. And it obviously, or would hope to reduce emergency scenarios as well. All of that data is able to help them as they are not only streamlining the clinical process, but they're also personalizing the interactions between a healthcare provider and their patient.
And I think it's important. You touch base on a couple of things, like whether it's an appointment reminder or, let's just say reaching out to a client. That all improves that customer experience, because at the end of the day, businesses obviously want to have the best customer experience, and they want to be able to provide that with their tech. They want their tech to work smarter for them, not make them work harder. And I think that's where the innovations and everything lies in there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you have, it's interesting because now we have things like Gen AI Studio, for instance, which is like a general purpose, it's off the shelf kind of AI for the contact center that will amplify large language capabilities. So, but it gives the customers, to your point, the opportunity to build it, to test it, and to build out prompts based on their business and the contextual data that they already have in order to build out a more personalized experience for their customers, right? So instead of us as engineers coming in and trying to facilitate everything, it kind of puts the AI into their hands.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because in this day and age, we're all super busy. Everybody knows we're busy. But not only that, improving that customer experience, putting it in their hands. And you touched on one thing that I wanted to backtrack just for a minute, is it also helps with your employee experience, because if an employee is repetitively doing the exact same task over and over again, I mean, I don't want to, let's just say it as is. That can be very boring, or it can be very monotonous, I guess is a better terminology for it. Where do you see, as far as that impacting in the contact center space? Because you're utilizing something to kind of take those monotonous tasks. And in my thought process, I would imagine that's helping a little bit on someone's return on investment, because they're taking the same employee and they're able to do more detailed work. That might be the right way to say it.
Yeah, and you're spot on. When we look at the ROI around agent assist, for instance, it's helping to reduce average handle time while it's improving not only the customer experience, but something that you highlighted, which is the agent experience, especially with, closing out a call. And so what we call post-call summaries. It's also being mindful of the customer time on the phone, right? If the agent has everything in their fingertips to be able to answer your call, and you don't have to call back, you don't have to wait on hold, how much more productive can you be with your time, and how much more satisfied would you be with interacting with this company in the future? Also, it allows agents who might be, not every agent is just customer service. Sometimes it's a sales campaign, or it's other campaigns to get more visibility and to sell more products to your customer base. And so it improves the opportunity for agents to upsell during the call, their call quality, and even compliance in real time, and in-call guidance and checklists, right? To be able to go through and say, hey, did I do everything on this call? It gives them more confidence, and it also provides them that additional confidence, but then it also provides them a feeling of like accomplishment, right? And so then that reduced workload, increase in interactions with their customers. Maybe they are doing some gamification and they're really excited about their roles, right? And they're on the leaderboard. that increases the amount of retention that we have within our agent base. And it also brings in recruitment too, right? A happy agent will tell their friends, just like we do in the channel, right? We're excited about what we do, and we try to recruit as many of our friends who we feel like this might be a good fit for. That same thing goes for our agents, especially now more than ever when there's so many roles that are open and unfilled. You want to really do what you can with regards to technology, elevating that technology for your agents so that they can stay and grow with the company.
Well, and I think that is, if not from everything I've heard, one of the number one things in the contact center space is agent retention. So, in any way, shape, or form that you can help with that, I mean, that's always a positive. And I think one of the things that Five9 does a really good job, I would challenge anybody who's listening to this is, well, I say challenge, in your spare time that we all have so much of, but go to Five9's YouTube channel, and just there's a quick hit of pre-plays in there that is all about how it has helped in businesses, and I think they're only like 2 to 3 minutes long. So it's like, bam, and goes through a bunch of different verticals and things to look at. As we cover Five9, I would say this is kind of the last but not least. What do you really feel like is Five9's like superpower, where you guys come in and, I don't want to say win every time, but this is your strong, I mean, at the end of the day, superpower for you guys?
I would say outside of obviously having a leading contact center space and platform that we're growing and adding to every day with our product initiatives, and it's our people. Like, I hope that doesn't sound too cliche, but you could see the big smile that I got on my face when I talked about it. It's the amount of collaboration that truly happens within our organization. And so no customer is only going to be single threaded with us. You're going to have so many points of entry into our organization and support that you'll truly feel like you're a part of the family. I believe that that's a reason why not only our customers have a long retention rate, but even internally, we have a long retention rate with I've been here for 6 years, which is a lifetime in the channel. However, it's always a positive challenge. It's always a familial effort. And just today, when we were recapping the end of Q1, we talked about when you go through and you review opportunities that you've worked with customers, and there's no less than 6 people on a customer opportunity, right? So they're really enveloped in our culture.
And I think that's so important because that touches on, number one, the support. And I know that with Five9, it's support, scalability, and I'd say implementation support would probably be the third thing, which kind of goes back to the first. But I would be remiss if we don't talk about that, because I'm not going to say we've all experienced it, because hopefully you haven't. But I think lots of businesses have experienced where they go, okay, this is the tech for us, and then they start the implementation and it just doesn't go well. And I think that is really somewhere that Five9 shines. Without personally, I think somebody, if they did a drinking game on how many times I say, let's hit the nail in the coffin, so to speak, not maybe the best way to verbalize that. But when it comes to implementation and support, those two things are so integral. So, I think you really hit it with that. But let's just touch on implementation for real briefly, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So from an implementation perspective, here's the thing. I've seen it done a few different ways. Like I said, I worked for a TSD prior to coming to Five9. So we had at the time upwards of a little over 100 suppliers in the portfolio. And one of the biggest pain points, not only for our partners, but for our customers, was that cutover time, right? So it was the time that now everything is signed, we got an agreement, and it's handing over to the implementation or the project management team post sales, and they don't know what they're doing. It doesn't go on time. It doesn't go as scheduled. They're struggling. And one of the things that I believe that we do well is that we actually put a PM and a PM, and we also put a specialist on the front end on the sales process once we're getting close to closing, right? Our solution engineer is still obviously extremely engaged. And then also our sales team is engaged through implementation. So now you have this continuity of visibility of people who within our organization that have been helping this customer since they brought the opportunity to us, since the discovery, demos, and session, all the way through implementation, right? And so you don't get a break in service or disconnect. And it just makes for a more enjoyable interaction with our customers and our partners and internally as well, because they have all that knowledge from what exactly the customer needed.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, let's nail the coffin shut, so to speak, but it's about support. So
Yeah.
you have those multitude of people that you're interacting with, and everybody, I'm not a single, it's very transparent. Like everybody knows what's going on. And that is so important.
Yeah.
Oh, your dog is
And
adorable,
my
by
dog is in the
the
back.
way.
He pushed into the door and there was nothing I could do about it.
I love it. I love it. Well, I would be remiss because you've talked about TSD and we've talked about being in the channel if I didn't touch base on exposure a little bit, because it's something that's near and dear to my personal heart, and I know like how you feel about it. So I wanted to, sorry, I have a fly. I wanted to highlight for a minute like exposure, what it does and what it means to the channel, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so exposure is something that's near and dear to me as well. I was inspired to create exposure because of the kindness and mentorship and sponsorship that I had received in my career. As I shared with you, I came into telecommunications and the channel out of being a banker. And there are so many people that I have met in my career here in the channel that have inspired me to just want to help others. And so exposure is a space where we are empowering others, not only in tech and in telecommunication, but we're empowering them to embrace being their authentic selves. Transparently, as I moved around this space earlier on in my career, and I've now been in the channel, they'll be close to 10 years. I was the only person that looked like me, right? I was the only person with my cultural experience that I could visibly see and then also interact with. And so intentionally, I wanted to create an organization that not only helped women further their careers, but also help people of color further their careers in the channel and in technology, because there was just lack of exposure to this route to market. And so once I was intentional about that, I was intentional about creating mentorship programs. And I should say, not I, my board and I, my other founders, we were intentional about creating, a space where in a community where you could be fully supported. Earlier on, we hosted series like a listening series, just to kind of let people vent and talk through some of the challenges that plagued us in 2020, where, the world pretty much shut down. And so the way that we interacted as humans was really highlighted. And the discrepancies in those interactions as humans was really highlighted. And so we had a listening series. We did a campaign against Asian hate, right? There was a bunch of things just teed up in that space. But on the flip side of the challenges, the successes were the amount of people who got to meet and create longstanding relationships, reverse mentorship opportunities. We conducted a survey that actually gave us visibility into the culture of the belonging, the makeup of the belonging. We found out that most of the channel was 50 plus. And, interesting about that, what's interesting, and it was 50 plus and like 35 and younger. So there was like a handful of folks in there in that 15-year gap. And what's interesting is the amount of change that has happened in the channel since that survey. We almost need to do it again to really, get a grasp on who's still in this space and what support they need. As exposure continue to progress beyond our webinars and our interactions on how we can create diverse, equitable, and inclusive spaces, we also went out on a limb, I would say. It's something that was could have been career limiting, but we asked all of the leadership at the master agents at the time to reconsider that name, not only because it was impactful from historical references around slavery, but it was also not a really good explanation of what it is they did in our space. They're technology solutions brokers. They are distributors, right? They're hybrid IT solution vendor management spaces, right? Whatever word you wanted to come up with. But now that was that was like 2 years ago. And now countless contracts, countless conversations. I was so excited to see at this past channel partners in Vegas, how many people refer to themselves or to the top TSDs and TSBs in this space as just that, right? I didn't hear the word master agent at any time. Now, it just could be because you guys were talking to me, but also I just feel like the industry has adopted it, and they also understand not only the nuanced impacts, but the greater impacts as our industry continues to change and we get more people and organizations from the outside as they continue to interact with us. So as we continue to look forward for exposure, I think the opportunity is great. DE&I has taken a huge hit in the private and public markets sectors. And we are rebranding as an organization focused around culture and belonging, and also retention and recruitment is obviously a high priority there, but really building out relationships, not only within the channel, we'll restart our community there, but then also external to the channel with some community relationships.
Well, and I think that's the big thing when you look at exposure from when it started to even like transitioning now to more like community based and cultural based, is that that's really what it's about. It's about building that community within the channel, so to speak, and a level of comfort. And I can speak for myself, having been in tech. I mean, and I always say this, I still go into rooms where I might be the only female founder, or I might be the only Hispanic or Latina or Latin, whatever term you want to use for me as an entity in that space and in that room. And so I think it's important that, number one, people get to see people who like yourself, who look like you and look like me. And number two, it's about kind of mentoring the future, I guess, as we gracefully age and get old, we'll say that.
Yeah, you're right. It is very much about that. I mean, I still walk into rooms and I'm the only woman there, right? Let alone woman of color. I can walk in a whole building and be the only woman of color. But what happens when you walk into a space and you see someone who might have, or you are introduced to someone who has your same cultural background and belonging, it kind of like it breaks down a whole set of barriers, right? Just like I would imagine someone who loves to play golf and is an avid player stands onto the golf field, or to the golf course. There's that. But they approach a golf course and they automatically have this sense of calm because they're comfortable in that space. And even if they're still working on their game, there's a level set that happens. And so I really kind of wanted exposure to also look a little bit like a golf course. I wanted you to come and just network, be able to be yourself, bring whatever experiences you have, but also be ready to learn something from someone else. And they are likely going to learn something from you too. But for the community aspect and piece of it, what I really love about the opportunity that we've had in 2023 was there are still so many people who don't know about the channel. There are still so many partners out there who are fumbling around. Their CIOs and CTOs who didn't know that this was an opportunity, and they're doing engagements for customers. And as the channel continues to have attrition in it, this is an opportunity for them to come in and also feel welcomed as they move within the walls of channel partners or, our industry events, right? They feel like they have a place, and then they have a opportunity to level set and come talk to a community who can help them navigate this crazy space. So yeah.
Yes, and I love that. So if anyone wanted to find out more information on exposure, where is the best way for them to do that?
I would say the best two ways is we have exposureidc.org, and that's exposuridc.org, or find us on the LinkedIn at Exposure, Inclusion, and Diversity Council. We are going through a rebrand, and so it'll just be Exposure here in the next couple of weeks. But for right now, you can find us there. And you can always reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn as well, and happy to have a conversation with anyone and route you to whatever resource that you need in this space.
And so just to finish out for the episode, is the best place for someone to find you, Miss Kelli, through LinkedIn? I would imagine that's the best place. So
I think that's the best place. Yeah, I haven't started a professional IG account yet. I'm actually trying to use the amount of time that I'm on social with my travel schedule. But yeah, LinkedIn is going to be the best place to find me. And what's interesting about that platform that I love is that it also shows you who else is in my network. So recently, when people reach out to me and we have like a 30-minute chat, and I look into my network, and, I connect them with people like you, Kat, or some of my other colleagues in this space who are really in alignment with whatever this person is looking for from a mentorship or career growth perspective. The only last thing that I'd like to add is that there's so much transition happening in our space. If you're also looking for a new company home or something like that, I'd also want to shout out that you can reach out to the Exposure team for that. But then also Five9 is hiring. Earlier, I talked a lot about our people. We are hiring. And I feel like for tech companies, for SaaS companies, you don't hear that a ton. And yeah, I wanted to throw that out there. Reach out to me for that too.
I love it. Well, thank you again for being on it. It's always a pleasure. I love getting to see you IRL in real life. And thank you for being on the episode.
Today's episode of Tech and Tequila. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. To stay updated about all things tech and more, don't forget to visit us at our website, shelbyts.com. If you loved what you heard, remember to show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our podcast. Your 5-star ratings and reviews mean the world to us and help us to reach more listeners just like you. So muchas gracias again for joining us with Tech and Tequila. Thank you so much. You learned a lot about tech, and maybe you had a nice drink of tequila.